listening to Bleeding Page Podcast. Join authors Chad Lutzke and Jason Brandt as they delve into writing and publishing the dark side of fiction.
All right, welcome to Bleeding Page Podcast, where we discuss writing and publishing dark fiction with myself, Chad Lutzke, and author Jason Brandt.
Hello.
This is our I guess pilot episode. So we're going to do brief introduction, starting with Jason. Go ahead, Jason.
I am obviously Jason Brandt. I've been a full-time horror author for actually I don't know how many years now, approaching a decade, 8 or 9 years, something like that. Had some pretty good success early on. I've done other projects and that kind of let my career flounder a little bit. So I'm looking forward to interviewing some very successful people in our field, finding out what they're doing and rebuilding my writing career as we go along with this. So it should be a good time.
Great. And I'm Chad Lutzke. I have, I think, 14 novellas out. Yeah, I think a couple of novels and a couple of short story collections. Some of it's self-published, some of it's through small presses. I've written stories for about 4 dozen magazines and short story anthologies and some nonfiction stuff for magazines like Cemetery Dance and Room Org and Famous Monsters of Filmland. And yeah, so we're here basically to learn even more and maybe even teach a little. We're definitely not like with the Six Figure Podcast or 20 books to 50K. We're not like your go-to for this is how you get rich, or this, especially within this genre. But yeah, we plan to have many guests on here just talking about their own experience through writing and publishing, with hopes of getting a lot of self-publishers on here so that we can explore that, because that's, as the years go by, that's becoming bigger and bigger, less stigma attached to it.
And particularly in our genre, I feel like, at least personally, I feel like it's the best way to make a living writing horror now. I mean, I've done it for years now. Mm-hmm. Even when I've written one book in 2 years, I'm still making, enough money to live on, because it was funny. You're like, oh, I've written for them and them and them, and I have written for myself, and that's it.
Hey man, but you're making more than I am, and it's all self-published, so that's good.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have a lot of varied opinions on here, so it's going to be interesting to see how people have built their businesses.
Sure, right. And our first guest is a friend of ours, Hunter Shea. And
yes,
I'll let you introduce Hunter.
He is, if you've ever heard him on any other podcast, I have had a podcast with him for going on 5 years now, I think. He's written a ton of books. He's been with, as you'll hear in the interview, I don't know, 8 or 9 different publishers. He's ghost written. He's done thrillers. He's done everything. So we figured he's a good one to have come on because he's got perspectives from all different sides of the business. He's been with publishers that have folded, publishers that are killing it right now. And like I said, he's done the Monster Men podcast for, I don't even know, man. I found them years ago on YouTube through Monster Men. They looked much younger when they started that. So it's been a long time.
Like 9 or 10 years, maybe more.
I believe it.
They've been doing that.
I mean, if I've been doing Final Guys with them going on 5 years, it's been a while. So he's done everything in the writing horror business. So he's got a lot of great opinions on what's worked for him, what hasn't worked. And I feel like it was a pretty good interview.
Yeah, we discuss all of that and more. So let's get into our interview with Hunter Shea.
Get a lot written today?
Yes.
Hunter, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's I'm glad to be here. I hope to bring this whole thing to a screeching halt and make sure you don't have an episode 2.
That's right.
My goal.
It could happen.
Yeah, this might.
Knowing you.
Ask Glenn Rolfe. I was on his premiere podcast, and when we were done, we were like, yeah, we should take that 10, 15 minutes out, right? I'm like, if you don't want people outside your house, I'm sure maybe don't do it.
I should say you and I have done well north of 200 episodes of a podcast together now, plus Monster Men and Drinking with Jason. So we have talked a lot. So that's why you're on here first, not because you're some great author or anything, but just because we know you.
Yeah,
Because
no
I would say
flattery.
yes. I understand. No
Yeah.
problem.
Exactly.
We're not
But just
intimidated
remember-
by you.
When you get Joe Lansdale later, he came after me. Just remember that.
Oh,
Yeah, but you still opened.
Mm.
I opened the
Good.
door.
You're the opener. All right.
So since we're keeping this on the shorter side, let's just jump into. I have some like business questions for you. Just
Go
first
for it.
and foremost, it's a simple one. Why do you typically go with publishers as opposed to self-publishing nowadays?
I don't have the time to do all the other work. I mean, honestly, I do enjoy royalty checks that come in on the steady. For the most part, I've lucked out right now because look, my stuff with Sam Hain. Some of those covers were primo, and that's sarcasm.
Yeah, that Swamp Monster Massacre was beautiful.
Dude, terrible. But when Severed Press redid it, they do really killer covers, and they know their audience, so I trust them. I love the fact that Flame Tree has worked to brand my covers, so you see that one of my books, you go, oh yeah, that's the Hunter Shea kind of design. So I think that's really on point. I love the fact that they do the editing. Flame Tree actually does a lot on the back side of promotions for you. Some of them leave you on your own, like Severed Press is like, yeah, your book's out. Have at it. But luckily they've
really?
got such a plugged-in fan base that you sell more books in 1 week doing 0 than if you did 400 blog tours. They're good that way.
That's what's confusing to me with like somebody like I can understand more of like Flame Tree because they do seem like they get your book out there a lot more, whether it be in bookstores or sending it to reviewers. Whereas I've never worked with Severed, so I don't know. But a lot of the other smaller presses, you are really on your own. So it's like, well, maybe I should, what the only real difference here is, except for the time that you're putting into it, is they're taking half of my money now if I give them the book as far as like promotion goes. So
Right.
is it something, is it like a big learning curve? Or Jason had mentioned before that you had self-published before. So is this just
Yeah.
a time thing and you're not you just want to wash your hands of everything? And I'm speaking mainly of like Severed or another smaller press that doesn't quite do what Flame Tree can do as far as promotion goes.
Right. I mean, I self-published a couple of books early, like very early on. And it was all right. I didn't know honestly, I didn't know what I was doing. And
Yeah.
it was just, I just want to get this book out here. But I'm an old man, Chad, you understand. And like when I was coming up, when I was growing up, when I wanted to write, there was like a path. There was like, oh yeah, they had those vanity presses where, you could pay like $100 and they'll put out some piece of garbage book that you'll give to your mom. That's it. And I was like, no way. I said, my whole goal was to get published with Leisure Books and Don Dioria. That was that's what I wanted to do.
Right.
So I've just been kind of plugged into that. But when Sam Hain did collapse, I kept my series of Jessica Backman books for myself and put them back out with the huge help of Jason and his friend who did killer covers. By the way, he's on mute. I love when he screws up.
Damn it. 200 some episodes. Still forget to unmute my mic.
Yeah, with the dogs barking.
Oh, I'm the worst.
But yeah, so I did that, and my intention is to do more in that series. Like what I've done with that series, the last few years, I've done stories, continuing stories about them in several anthologies, kind of slip them in there. This year, I've done stories on Patreon, and then the goal is to do another book. But I'm just going to do that myself. I don't know. I love that series. So I want to keep that to myself, and I can see myself eventually going rogue and doing more self-publishing. But I do like the fact of sometimes you get a really nice advance and you get those royalty checks, and it's just I write the book and I have professionals help me with all the rest. So it's a mix. I think you should have streams, different.
I believe
streams.
so too. That's why I'm hybrid, and I like that. I like the royalty thing. I mean, I got my solid royalty from Amazon for all my self-published stuff,
right?
And then if I'm working with a good small press, which isn't always the case, then I get, my monthly or my quarterly, or yearly if it's like a foreign. But it's funny that you mentioned age, because that's kind of my attitude toward this thing and with self-publishing, because I'm like right behind you. I think you're what, 53?
Yeah, you're breathing down my neck, brother.
Yeah, I'll be 52 in February, and that's
Man, I'm on
part
here
of
with a bunch of olds.
yeah.
Yeah,
That-
but
that's
you're
part of
way
the
older than us
reason-
in many ways.
It's part of the reason why I self-published, because I'm like, man, I just started, doing this like seriously and professionally, like 2014. So it hasn't been that long. And of course, most of my stuff, because of the way I write or whatever, it's shorter, so it doesn't take that long. But if I want to give it to someone, it's probably going to take at least a year from submission to actually, publishing the book. Whereas like the book I have coming out in January, I wasn't even wanting to write that. I was watching a movie. I got an idea that has nothing to do with the movie. It's just, that happens all the time. And within 30 days, I had the cover and I had the book written. And of course, a bunch of stuff, comes after that. But if I were to sub that afterwards somewhere, it wouldn't be out till 2023 probably. And that drives me crazy, because then it's like, well, then I'm going on 54 years old or 53 years old.
I hope I
with
live to
this
see
one
this book come out.
I'd
No, I
rather
know the
just
feeling.
put it
I,
out, 2 months after I've finished, writing it.
Yeah.
So, but I also understand it's not for everyone. I ask Tim all the time too, because he's self-published, and Todd Kiesling too, but they choose to not really do that too much. And they both know how to format. I know Todd does. And of course, there's some great cover artists and everything, and freelance editors and stuff. And so sometimes I wonder, and I think I found that a lot of it does boil down to, time. You just want to write. You don't want to waste all the, doing all the marketing and all of the
It's
stuff that
live.
comes along with
That
it. Is
that
a lot.
part is more than the writing. The writing's like easy.
Yeah, and it's constant too.
Yeah, you never stop. Which I think I'm going to change things up a little. You mentioned Swamp Monster Massacre. So when that book came out, that ebook only novella, I did, I think, an 80 stop blog tour that went on for 4 months. And for each stop, I was writing a blog post or doing an interview. It was insane. And I was paying money for it too.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it had pretty good sales, but nothing compared to like when I did the Montauk Monster, and I was selling paperbacks in Piggly Wiggly. People were sending me pictures. Like, that distribution channel was amazing. And that's I like to find publishers that have either Severed Press has a good voracious group of readers who will grab everything as soon as it comes out, or Flame Tree, which partners with Simon and Schuster. They distribute the book, so they put out really good hardcovers, and they can be in bookstores, not just here but in Europe as well. So I enjoy that.
Yeah.
But I do see the value of owning some of your own property too, and doing that. So I want to do that more. But I think I want to follow more of Jason's model, which is advertising, because you don't see Jason acting like a monkey on a string all the time on social media. He does it behind the scenes.
Not even ask Chad. He can't even get a hold of me on social media.
Right. So, but you sell books, and you've done a hell of a lot of work figuring out how that works best for an author. So, I might take a drive down there one day with I'll bring a lot of beer, and, just tap into your brain and figure some stuff out.
Well, hopefully that's what this podcast will do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've found a lot of horror authors in particular, because it's not like horror authors get big deals and are in every Barnes and Noble typically. It happens, but it's pretty rare. I find a lot of them that go with small presses, a lot of them, it's validation, or it's like, you just don't have time. I just don't have the time to learn the business side of it. I just want to get some books out there, build a fan base. You've been pretty candid about needing health insurance for your family. So it's hard. You have to make a significant amount of money from your books in order for you to be able to do it full time. And writing
Which would
in our
be
genre
impossible,
can be tricky,
because I have a family that cannot stay well. There's just 2 of them are handicapped, and one drives me nuts. But yeah, we'll always need heavy medical expenses. Maybe if I go to Canada, I'll finally have time. That's a possibility. Because
I
this
mean-
country's just about done.
Oh God,
Or done with me.
that feels more like it.
Mhm.
I wanted to ask you too, since you've done so many. How many small presses or big presses or publishers have you been with?
Let's see. Sam Hain, Sinister Grin. So both of those are gone. Silver Shamrock, which put out my reissue of The Waiting. I did Kensington, Pinnacle Books. Did 9 books with them so far. Flame Tree Press. Is there someone else I'm missing out there? My own stuff.
Did you just say Severed?
Oh, well, I mentioned that before. So yes, Severed. I've done like 10 books with Severed Press. That was like a one and done. I remember when I lost my job, they reached out to me and he was like, "Hey, do you want to do, some books? Because you have time." And he gave me like a 6-book deal. I was like, it was a
They do that
lifesaver.
often, don't they? Armand Rosamilia, he has like a 6-book deal, I think.
Yep. Just shits on me in all his books.
That's okay,
That's all
because I
right.
shit on him in real life.
Yeah, I got him back in this book I'm writing right now for Severed Press.
So where I was heading with this is you've been with so many now and you've had 2 fold. What is the fallout when you've got books with a company like that and it folds? I mean, how did you go about getting your rights back, getting paid for past sales? Did you?
Yeah. I was lucky in both cases. So when Sam Hain went under, the day after I got the Sam Hain logo tattoo, great choice. They were kind
Did
enough.
you
and
really?
I did.
Oh,
And I
no.
was with Don that night and I showed him the tattoo and he was like, "Oh, that's really cool." And he called me up the next day. "So it's going out of business." I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
Oh man.
Oh, that's so great.
To the point when we went together to Flame Tree, he was like, "Whatever you do not put any
Yeah.
ink on your body that reflects this company." Because the best part was I'd originally signed with him at Leisure a month before that fell apart. So him and I have destroyed
Wow.
2 publishers together.
Okay, so you've been signed with 3 now that have gone under.
Well, Leisure, luckily, nothing really had happened at that point, and it was just over. But Sam Hain was good because they always paid on time. They paid monthly. So some of your checks were $3.57, but you got a check. So when they closed out, they said, "Here, you got your rights back. We're done. Here's your last check." They were excellent that way.
They didn't try to sell the catalog.
They did not. They
Wow,
were
that's great.
primarily an erotica publisher. I think they were just like, let the horror go. I don't know what they did to the erotica side. Sinister Grin, which just closed its doors in September, again, they approached me. They said, "We want to let you know that we're closing the doors. You have the rights back, and here's your last check." So I didn't have to chase anybody. If you want to hear horror stories, like listen to Brian Keene talk about getting his rights back from Leisure, I lucked
Right.
out both times. So thank God.
Now, is
Yeah.
that why you're spread far and wide now through different publishers?
Oh, after Sam Hain, I'm like, I will never put all my eggs in one basket, ever. So yeah, I'll publish with just about anybody. I'm actually talking to a company in Germany right now.
Oh, translations.
Maybe.
You talking about Dunwich?
No, it's a different company. They're just starting to break out into horror, and he wants to reprint a book that I thought would never see the light of day again. But I'm like, hey, if you want it, I guess we can give it a shot. Why not? It's another avenue.
Is it I Kill in
revenue.
Peace?
No, it's Evil Eternal.
Oh, Evil
Which is-
Eternal. I didn't realize you
yeah.
didn't have that out.
No, it's kind of languishing. In my head, that was always really a graphic novel, and I think it reads strange as a book now. It's so over the top. It's ridiculous. But if people want it, I just said if I do it, I would like to add more to it. So we'll see how that goes.
Nice.
So the Flame Tree is one of the I used to have all of these publishers. You know how like when you first start writing, first start getting published, you kind of like have this low bar bucket list. Well, at least I did. Where it's like I want to be have in bed with this publisher, and then you kind of get there and it builds up. At this
Right.
point, I think Flame Tree is maybe the only other publisher I can think of right now that's kind of like small press that I don't know anyone there. I've never subbed to any. One of the reasons why I've
Mhm.
never subbed is because I know they want 70K words plus, and
Yeah.
you know, I've written 14 books, and they're all. It takes me about 2.5 books to reach that.
Then I was gonna say if all 17 now equals 70K.
No, but yeah. So, but just because I like yeah, I like what they're doing, and it just seems like it seems like a great. It seems like one of those places that once you're in there, you're in there. You know, if you want, yourself, Jonathan Jans, Glenn Rolfe. You know, you
If
guys
you're
have a lot of stuff.
producing, I do know quite a few
Yeah.
authors who went back and they were like, no.
Mm.
So it does happen.
Yeah.
I always wait for that to happen to me. But then I know where Don lives, so and I can easily access him. If you're listening, Don, remember that.
Oh, that's lovely. So, you guys talking about spreading out revenue streams. While I have never signed with a publisher and it would take a sizable check to make me do it, I agree in that I don't make that much in paperbacks, but like I'm trying to get into libraries more now. Audiobooks have been a huge revenue stream for me. Do you get audiobook deals through these small presses often? Like how many of your books end
Yeah.
up in audio?
I've got Kensington hooked me up with graphic audio. So they did Montauk Monster, Jersey Devil, My Mail Order Massacres, and One Size Eats All. So they all have audio deals, and they're different. That's not like a narrator. That's actors and music and sound effects. So it's like listening to a stage play version of your book.
Those are expensive to produce, so that's really cool.
Very expensive. So and I've had other books. I remember Severed Press did an audiobook of Loch Ness Revenge, which is told first person, present tense, through the eyes of a woman. And they had a guy with the southern drawl reading it. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to fucking promote that. It's not right at all. And it happens. I've had some awful, Sam Hain did one for Evil Eternal that just raised my hackles every time I heard it. I was like, this is awful.
Bad narrator fit?
Very bad. Very bad.
So they
Whoever
didn't give you
are.
any say?
No.
Produced it?
Yeah. But I remember with Severed Press, I said, I don't like this at all. And they got somebody else to redo it.
Wow.
Still wasn't right. It was still a male voice, which is wrong, but whatever. I was happier the second time around.
That is strange. First person female protagonist.
Yeah. It was
male voice.
I was writing that simultaneously with a book that was regular third person male.
Right. Oh yeah, I've done that too, but I'm just saying it should be a given. I mean, it's spelled out right there for you.
Yep. But
who you need to find to narrate.
Look at Aliens versus Predator. Here's the way to do it. Just read the comic book. Now we're going to figure it out on our own. We're going to make movies the way we want to make them. And there you go. You get what you get.
That's a strange choice. So, like maybe half of your books, a third of your books are in audio?
All of the Flame Tree Press books are in audio.
Okay.
So they come out, they do hardcover, trade, ebook, audio. There's a couple of Severed Press books out there right now with it. That's about it. And the graphic audio, which those things are killer. I love them.
Okay. That's not bad then. I mean, like I said, I've particularly Audible, if the book is longer, I can do really well there. And if I get a BookBub deal or something like that, just on the ebook, I get hundreds and hundreds of sales of the audiobook at the same time, which is nice.
So you brought up BookBub. I'm glad you brought that up because BookBub will only let you, as an author, whether it's through yourself or through your publisher, do one BookBub ad. I think it's every 90 days.
Okay.
So every time I have tried to do a BookBub ad in the last year to promote my Jessica Backman series, they go, "Oh, but you already have a BookBub ad, and it's something that Flame Tree is doing." So, I had said, "Let me start the new year out with doing a promotion on BookBub," and I just got notification they're doing something with Creature. I was like, "Oh, all right." So I'm set back again. So I can't do anything.
Yeah. Okay. For a second, I thought that it just had to be that book, but I guess that you can't submit if you get rejected, you can't submit the same book for I think 90 days. Is it?
It's according to what they told me, it's any book. It's per author.
Well, I mean, if you get rejected. Like you can
Oh,
turn
yeah.
around and you can submit another book like.
But every
within
time I
5
do,
minutes, if you want.
yeah, usually Flame Tree has already submitted something else. I'm like, oh,
That's
so I
pretty
might
cool,
have to have
man.
a talk with them and
Though
say stop
that
for a
you
little
have,
bit.
because that's horror. I think I can't be sure, but I think that horror might be the most expensive, or one of the most expensive for a book bug deal.
Oh
I
man,
know
when I've done thriller, it is way more expensive than horror.
Is it really?
Like
Okay.
way more expensive. Yeah, the list is huge. The people they're emailing it to.
Yeah.
But I've only done horror and thriller. I have no idea about the cost of other genres.
I think the last time I did was horror, and it was like close to around 300. It was about $300, I think.
I don't even want to guess what I did. I think I did a book bub for a thriller novel last year, and I want to say it cost me like 700 something.
Oof.
Really?
It's been a while, but it was significant, and it was on a free book. So I was like, please make my money back.
Yeah.
Oh, gee.
I did in spades. I like tripled my money on it, but it was interesting for a while.
Yeah.
So Jason, I want to ask you something. Since you haven't sought out any other publisher, have you ever considered it just to help get a wider audience, other than the one that you already have right now, with the readership that you have now, and then when relying on ads, but just like within circles, like writing something and just submitting it somewhere so that you can get those circles covered?
Only once. I've been approached by several publishers, but for me, this is what I do full time. If it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. So just to be able to have to reach an audience with, say, short stories in an anthology, I don't have time for that. I can make more money writing my next novel. But if I was offered a paperback deal, I think it was a 10,000 print run, which interested me because I don't sell a lot in paperback. So if I could get into that market, get into some stores, then that could be another future revenue stream for me for my self-published stuff. But the money they ended up offering, it was for a whole series of books. And I was just looking at the money they were offering and thinking, I'm going to end up losing a significant portion of my income for a couple of years on this deal, hoping it pays off in the future. And I just decided against it. Yeah. And it ended up being a good thing because that company ended up screwing over a bunch of authors about a year later.
Oh,
so I just kind of went with my intuition, and it worked out for once. Usually my gut screws me, but
yeah, I got to tell you, I did like a pee-pee dance when I got a mass market paperback deal with Montauk Monster. Because that's all I ever wanted in my life. Just give me one of those. And that book went through 3 or 4 print runs. I think it finished out. It's sold out. You can't get new ones, but I think it finished out at 75,000 copies or something.
That's killer.
But that came out in 2014. I'm still getting royalty checks on that are pretty significant. Wow. That and Jersey Devil.
So Montauk Monster is your creature.
By far. If you don't understand this, watch Final Guys.
Yeah.
That was a deep cut joke from our
terrible. Well, the funny thing is that Creature now is my oldest Flame Tree book, but it's doing the best still.
I mean, that makes sense. I would say that's your best book. It is your creature.
Exactly.
So it would make sense that would have
well
legs.
Again.
Spoiler alert: Creature is on my top 10 favorite reads of the year.
Really?
Yeah.
Check is in the mail.
I've been comprising a list, and Lansdale's on there.
Twice.
Share it with him.
Is Tim Meyer on there? Because I'm sick of sharing lists with him. I keep seeing everyone's list, and there's me and my book and a Tim book somewhere.
I haven't read anything of Tim's this year.
That's amazing.
Sorry, Tim.
I should tell you, when my wife was reading Creature, it was the first thing of yours she had read.
Right.
And she read the first chapter and she's like, this is actually good.
Yeah. Can only imagine.
Well, if you know Hunter, I mean, I get it. That was kind of my attitude, because Hunter's just a silly teddy bear of a man, I guess, and joking around a lot. And then you read something like Creature and you're like, dang, man, this is not only well written, but it's really heartfelt.
I will tell you, by reading that book, you understand why I am the way I am, because that's my life. And if I don't live my life opposite, I'll jump off a freaking roof somewhere.
You're like
I just look at life that way.
the guys in like Alan Alda when they're performing surgery in MASH, joking around and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
The gallows humor in my house never stops, and it's trickled down to my kids. Like one of them's handicapped, and the stuff that we all say to each other is ridiculous. But we got to laugh because
Well, that's good. That's
it's
helping.
a horror show.
Well, your writing impressed her, and it's impressing other people against all odds. So
there we go.
What about
Whatever.
an agent? Do you have an agent that negotiates some of these deals for you, or do you do it yourself?
Well, when I got my first book when Leisure came about, now we never signed that deal, but I had my list of agents and I said, oh, these are the ones who deal with Leisure. So I picked one who had rejected me several times. And lo and behold, when I have a book deal already, happy to take it on. So she was my agent and Jonathan Jans. We shared her for many years. And then I sat back and I'm going, wait a second, I've gotten every deal since then, except one where I did a book for Random House. And I'm like, why am I paying 15% when I'm doing all the work? So we just kind of drifted apart. But I have a new agent now, and he does mostly thrillers. He's big into thrillers, much bigger agency that one of my editors hooked me up with him. So we're going to see what we can do together. But I can still, Severed Press, I still did my own deal with them, and I have my contacts. Luckily, you've been in it long enough, you have enough contacts, and you can always find work somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay, so bigger stuff, real books, you have an agent that's shopping. Little
Yes.
piddly horror stuff we write, you do yourself.
Right. I said I want to get out of the horror gutter for just a little bit, so I wrote a book that could be horror if I changed a few things, and he's been shopping it around, and we'll see what happens to it.
That's kind of what I plan on doing. I'm writing something that will be, novel length, and it's not horror, and it's a prequel to two other books, Jason. So I'm sure you'll want to read it. And
Very excited.
It's done.
Yeah.
Don't even give it to him.
Honestly, it's a prequel to a prequel. So
see, I wish you had told
whammy.
me you were writing that before I agreed to do this podcast with you.
Yeah, he quit. Jack
Deal
is
breaker.
free if you need another co-host.
Yeah, it's a prequel to a book. It's just I wrote them all backwards. Didn't mean to, and but that's what I'm going to do with that, and because it's much more literary, and it's still a little dark, but I'm kind of excited about that. Tim has queried agents before, and he absolutely hated it, and he said he doesn't want to do that anymore.
It's horrible. It is.
I hear
horrible,
it is, but I don't know. I did send just one agent she was looking for all new people, TV, film. Never heard anything. And I do have another guy that I've worked with before with something, and we're not signed on together, but he's read he reads my stuff and says whether he personally can do, he said this would make a great movie, but I don't know how to do it.
Right.
So, give it to somebody else. But I would like to get an agent just for something that's not horror. Because when you write something like that and you in your tribe, your circle is just all the horror people, I don't know what to do with it.
Right. I'll tell the agent comes in handy for, like, my previous agent got me a Random House deal with a children's picture book. And then got me a deal working with Amazon. They had a Rapids reading program where you just write these dialogue stories and then they animated them for kids so they could look at them on phones and iPads and stuff like that. So I wouldn't have even thought of those at all. And both were significant amounts of money where it's like,
nice.
I can't say no to that. So when you get outside of our comfort zone in the world that we know as horror, but if you want to get out of that, an agent, it's a huge deal. I ghost wrote a book for a publisher, and I had an agent there with the Writer House. Now, that's like huge.
Yeah. And,
my goal is to, we might be doing another book together, ghostwriting, and work with that same agent. And I would like, maybe that agent will be the one that gets me into the Paul Tremblay world or something. I don't know. Or Riley Sager.
That'd be
Riley
great.
Sager to me is the person who's doing it right, and I love his books, and I love what he's getting out of them, and the
Mhm.
distribution channels for that, and the accolades he's getting for it. Personally, I don't care about accolades. Like I always tell my editors, if I'm ever nominated for Bram Stoker, don't ever expect me to go to the ceremony. If I ever got the award, don't ever expect me to pick it up. I don't care about that stuff. You're talking to a guy who didn't go to his own college graduation because I didn't give a shit about the piece of paper diploma. So that means nothing. I just want to entertain people. That's literally the only reason I'm in this.
Speaking my language.
Sure ain't for the money.
No, horror typically isn't. It's tough to do.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of income, do you have some, Chad?
No, go ahead.
Oh, you mentioned Patreon earlier, which a lot of authors are using, some successfully, some unsuccessfully, to kind of bolster their income. The one thing I've heard from everyone, I haven't done one myself because I know I'd miss all my deadlines and totally screw it up, is I've heard it's a ton of work. Have you found the same thing, and has it been worth it?
I will tell you this, it can be a ton of work at times. It has been worth it for me only because of there were certain now really close relationships I've built with these people that I wouldn't have gotten that without them.
Yeah.
And as long as they want to support me, that's perfectly fine, and I'll do whatever they want. In fact, I'll put up a poll at the beginning of the year basically saying, what do you want from me? My favorite thing that's come out of it is the live movie watch parties. And it's, I set up once a month, pick a shitty movie to watch, grab your favorite drink, whatever you like, and we just talk and make fun of them and have a good time. So
I
for
have
that,
been
it's
to one
worth
of
it.
those. It is a good time.
Yes,
been to
yeah,
a
you
couple
did
of
Troll
them,
too.
I did Troll too.
I did Thanksgiving. Was it 3?
3, yeah.
Which I absolutely hated. And then I came in for the third act of I don't even know what it was. Bigfoot movie that you watched recently.
Oh yeah. Oh, I can't remember the name of it. It's the one with Lloyd Braun from Seinfeld. And Lance Henriksen and Jeffrey Combs and Tiffany
Those
Shepard.
guys I didn't get to see them in it. I just saw some TV actor dad.
Yeah,
at the
that was Lloyd Braun.
Okay.
That movie's great, by the way. And I'm pissed off I can't remember the name. There's so many Bigfoot movies. I'm wearing a Bigfoot shirt that I can't keep track of them anymore.
So as a source of income, it's not bringing you in a lot, or it's enough to pay some bills, or
it pays my storage fee for my storage, and it pays a couple other things. So it's nothing crazy, but I enjoy doing it. Like my friend told me, my friend Norm Hendricks, who got me into writing when we were working at the phone company together, and he's gotten a couple of books published since then. He goes, writing, I don't know if it's an addiction for you, but it's definitely a compulsion. And whatever feeds my compulsion, I'm happy to do. And even if I'm feeling like total shit, I'll find a way. This year has been the roughest I've had writing in probably 25 years. I've had moments where I'm just totally checked out. And I've really had to force myself to sit my ass down. That being said, I will have written a full-length novel, a novella, several stories on Patreon, contributed to 2 anthologies. But to me, that's a slow year. But it's the drag. It's the frickin' COVID drag of second year of nonsense. And I don't see next year being any better. In fact, I was just telling someone today, I said, you know what? This is actually the end of us. I said, I honestly think this will kill the entire planet at one point.
So it's killing your productivity as far as writing goes.
It can. Yeah. This year, it hurt it. That and my day job, which, personally has totally wrecked any time I have. Like I'm working every day this month except Christmas Day. It is.
Well, you're much more prolific than a lot of people out there who have twice as much time.
What? Who are you talking about?
Look at that hand right
there. Yeah, Mr. One book every other year or whatever.
Yeah, Jesus.
I feel what you're saying though, because COVID really killed my writing too.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was, but I just really struggled to sit down and write. I really struggled to, so I get it.
Yeah, last year I was fine. This year I was like, well, what's the point? Is anyone even going to be alive to read this damn thing? Like telling my kids, don't even have kids. Please, dear God, don't get pregnant. If you're going to bring up a baby that's not going to make it to its 6th birthday, it's like Mr. Maudlin.
Good Lord.
But writing keeps me sane. So that's why I keep doing it.
Chad, you have a Patreon. What's your experience been with it?
it can be stressful, particularly like, you've got this thing that people don't want to lose your patron. It's actually, it's not as much about losing your patrons as it is the appreciation that you feel that they would even drop coin to just to support you. So you want to not just sit back and, you want to give them stuff that they're just really glad that they pulled the trigger on that. And if you're feeling that, not very productive because of COVID or anxiety or just too much, work at your job or whatever, or like when I had COVID for that month and I didn't write anything, man. And so that part of it can be stressful. But like Hunter said, meeting people and connecting with the people. Now, I'm not sitting around and watching movies like Hunter is, but
What?
still,
you watch as many movies as Tim.
No. I through your Patreon page, page.
Yeah.
I'm not watching movies with my Patreon page. And I waste my time in front of the TV.
I found a fun way to give some. I mean, look, you can't get any more accessible than having a drink with me and watching a movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean,
true.
Because that's
cool.
what Patreon's about. It's like access that the regular person can't get.
Exactly.
Well, hell, tune right in. You're going to watch me up here in this attic smoking a cigar through a haze, trying to watch the movie and saying really inappropriate shit for 2 hours. That's awesome.
Can
watching
confirm.
a horrible movie.
Watch us tomorrow.
I am looking to start a Patreon in January, but it's actually gonna be for my YouTube channel, not my writing. Just because the writing, I just know I'm gonna, like, if I promise a short story a month, I know I'm not gonna deliver after like the third month, and then it's gonna snowball.
Right.
So I've always struggled with that, because I think if you're good with it, particularly if the people that can do a short story a month, I see some of these authors crushing it on Patreon, and then they have this consistent income. They know exactly how much they're going to make every month, and I'm very jealous of that. I wish I had that kind of capacity, but it seems like in horror, a lot of people just maybe you can make $100 a month, maybe you can make $200 a month, which is still nice.
Yeah, it's better than a stick in the eye. I might do like lingerie photo shoots of myself, and maybe that'll get me. If I looked like a hot 25-year-old woman, I would be making bank on Patreon. OnlyFans would be next.
This is true.
Be through the roof, but that's not happening with this tired old piece of man.
Yeah, I almost didn't do the Patreon, Patreon page because I felt really pretentious, kind of like when I made those shirts too, and it just felt like this is so pretentious of me to think that people are going to pay me every month to get exclusive stuff. And so I avoided it for a while, and then I was like, you know what, screw it. And because I didn't want, like, 6 months down the road, I had 2 patrons and one's my mom. I didn't want that.
Well, you got me.
Yeah, and Jason, or at least at one point, I had Jason for a while.
Yeah, I was on there for a long time.
They wax and wane.
Yeah,
I mean, I was tired of you not coming through, so I decided to pull the plug on that.
Yeah. Maybe
I will say one thing. Patreon got me. I wrote a book called Clash of the Cryptids, and it was a choose your own adventure book. So I would write a chapter or 2 or 3 and then just go, hey, what happens next? And it's like 110,000 word novel that I finished. I don't know how disjointed. I'm almost afraid to look at it and edit the thing, but I'm going to, and I'm going to self-publish that and put that out there.
I did that, and I don't know if I got the idea from you or from someone else.
Tim stole it from me, by the way, when he did his
Well,
book.
I decided to do it too, and it is not fun.
Especially when they go where you don't want them to go.
Well, people have been enjoying, at first I was just like, what, I had them be involved with everything. Like, what kind of, genre do you want this to be? Or do you want it to, and I would choose like 4 things and have a poll of like 4 things.
Right.
And I would have different scenarios and they would choose it. And then I would just keep dwindling it down until finally the book started. And then it became, the choose your own adventure. And I haven't written in it. I don't think I haven't written added to it this month. And yeah, it's not fun, man, because I'm one of these, I am not like one of these people who I like without writing, I wouldn't survive. I have to be writing it. I'm not like that.
Right.
It's kind of a struggle for me to even sit down and do it. So oftentimes I'll have to force myself. I don't get like super excited. Oh, I can't wait to write. Sometimes I do. Depends on what book. There's been like 3 books I've written where I was like, this is so much fun. I can't wait to get back to it. But yeah, I so this thing is thank God it's humorous and it's a little absurd because that I have fun writing because
Right.
then kind of like anything goes, I don't have to stick to certain rules and stuff like that. So it hasn't been that bad, but I didn't promise anyone that I was going to publish it when it was done. I was like, we'll see, and if anything, I should put it together, format it, and then make it available in paperback just for my patrons at the very least.
Right. And I have to do that. But I made it fun. I made it absurd. And what I did was I took characters from a bunch of my books like Loch Ness Revenge, Montauk Monster, Jersey Devil, Dover Demon. So put them all in this world. And they battled about 4 dozen different types of cryptids in a thing that became like almost this global spanning time and space thing. I mean, it's absolutely bananas. But I kept it fun and absolutely absurd. And I will tell you, in this book, the Puckwudgies are the coolest goddamn things on the face of the planet. Puckwudgies
sound cool.
Yeah. So, and that wasn't the intention, but I was like, oh, people love the Puckwudgies, so let's keep them going. So it was cool. Nice. They kind of steered me in that direction.
Chad, I got 2 more questions. Do you have anything you want to bring up?
No, go ahead, man.
Well, I wanted to ask, I think we might do this with everybody. Of all the things you've done to promote your books, yourself, whatever it is, what has completely flopped the biggest? Like, what were you like, that was such a waste of my time?
Pinterest? Pinterest is definitely a big fail.
Did you spend a lot of time on Pinterest?
Like for a month, and I was like, I don't even understand what the point of this is. Why?
Yeah, I did it too, man. I got my book covers on there. Yeah.
Like my agent was pushing me for Pinterest, and I was like, all right, let me try this. I'm like, I don't think this is working at all. So I keep that up. Yeah, that was the worst. That's why, like, I know people like, come on, do a TikTok. I'm like, no.
Now that is working for some people, for sure.
It's not going to work for me. I just know it. Unless I do something that's so ridiculous, it'll get me culture canceled eventually.
Run around in your tighty whities with your book or something.
Some on Instagram. Now I thought Instagram was a flop, but actually that's built up a little bit over the last few years. I gave up on that and then went back to it. I was doing these photo shoots of dead man reading, and I would just take pictures of me as a corpse all over the place with a book in my hand, and those are working. And I'm like, follow the next shiny object, and I forget all about that. And I'm like, oh, maybe I should do that again. How hard is it to lay down somewhere in an awkward position holding a book? But obviously very hard because I don't do it enough.
Would you do it in like very weird places were people were looking at you, or were you just doing like in the woods and stuff like that?
Like I was falling down the stairs, face dead drunk on a table, laying in the grass, like stuff like that. I was going to be draped.
So it wasn't like at the mall.
No, but I was draped over tombstones. I don't think I ever put those out. My wife got very upset with that.
So you were essentially planking.
I was planking on tombstones.
Yeah.
Oh God, I forgot about planking.
Yeah, thankfully.
All right, and then what was the best thing you've done that helped you take off or get into, whatever it is? What do you think the best thing you've done is to promote yourself or your books?
In the very beginning, with Sam Hain, because a lot of it was ebooks, it was blog tours. As ridiculous as it sounds, my agent found Swamp Monster Massacre, not my agent, one of my editors, because he saw it on a blog tour and picked up 100 ebooks to read over like the holiday break. And when he was done 99, he'd took off his Kindle and he kept that. And we ended up working on 9 books together. No, sorry, 10, and hopefully 11 soon. So then it was blog tours. BookBub, definitely the best thing you can do as a writer right now, other than commit a crime and get on the news.
Say blog tours, the one thing that you can't really do that much anymore.
No, ask for that all the time, and I look at where like their blogs are. I'm like, what is this? Like, Mrs. Highfeather's book tours. I'm like, the horror readers aren't going to Mrs. Highfeather.
Yeah, I've done those before too. Not 80 or whatever you said before, but several. And I wonder nowadays with people's attention spans, that's just feels like too much reading. They either want to
Mhm.
listen to it on the go or sit down and watch it during lunch or something like that,
Yeah.
rather than reading articles, reading blogs.
No, I would say do something that gets you on the news and live off that for a while. It could be good or bad, but bad seems to work better.
How to End Up in Prison by Hunter Shea.
How can I make Ghislaine Maxwell escape from prison? And then, I can get in the news.
Wow.
And she
What a
could rub
place
my
to end.
feet on an airplane.
Appreciate you coming on for the very first episode.
Yeah, man. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you very much. I was good. I don't think there's anything you need
You
to
were good.
edit. It's all good.
Yeah, we'll go with
Sure.
that.
But watch me and Jason watching Joe Bob tomorrow when we're done.
Yeah, there's a reason those don't air. That is not PG-13.
No.
Where can people find you?
Here, right in the attic. Or huntershea.com. You can find me there, and there's links to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. No, Instagram, you got to find me, Hunter Shea 2017. That's when I started the account there. I kind of like to keep it that way. And, I'm out and about. And Monster Men podcast, Final Guys podcast, episodes of Paleo Cheese. I'm like a cold sore. I'm everywhere and I keep popping up.
Can't get rid of you.
No, that's for life.
You're there forever.
Enjoy my herpes.
Goodbye.